So today is Monday, February 8th. It is 6:02. We're beginning the Parks Commission meeting for the town of Adams. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, general law, chapter 30A, section 18, and the governor's March 15th and July 2nd, 2020 orders imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the town of Adams Parks Commission is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort has been made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. Attending remotely are members Paul Nowicki, Jake Schutz, and myself, Cindy Bird, from Adams. We have posted today's agenda in accordance with open meeting law, which included the call-in information for the meeting. Despite our best efforts, if we are not able to provide for real-time access for the public to participate in today's meeting, a recording of this meeting can be made available by request, as this meeting is being recorded using the Zoom platform. As we are participating remotely, please note that all votes taken during this meeting will be by a roll call vote. I will state the member's name and ask for their vote for each vote necessary today. I'm also going to identify the other people that are at this meeting. Robert Tober from the DPW, Steve Scrocky from the DPW, Mike Matera is the co-athletic director from Hoosick Valley, Jack Garino from My Berkshires, Lou Mosier from Adams Cheshire, the ACS Softball League. And I believe Scott Cernick will be coming in after. So for Scott and Jake, have you had a chance to look over the minutes from last month?
I'd just like to suggest one change.
Okay.
Under old business, one of the dates should be changed to 12/14/20 instead of 21.
Okay.
Before we vote on it. Okay. Okay. Got it.
Hi, Cindy. Yes, I did see them.
Okay, great. Welcome back, Jake.
Thanks.
In that case, I'll move the minute.
So is there a motion to approve the minutes from January 25th, 2021?
Yeah, that's my motion. And as changed.
I'll second that, but I'm gonna abstain from voting since I wasn't there.
Okay, so I'm assuming that was Paul that made the
Yes.
motion. Okay, and any discussion? Okay. All in favor, Paul,
Yes.
Jake?
I'm gonna abstain since I wasn't at the meeting.
Okay, and I accept the minutes for January 25th, 2020. For new business for this meeting. Sorry. So we have the athletic director, one of the athletic directors from Hoosick Valley here, joining us to just talk about. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Yes, I think we got Mr. Fessel joining us.
Jim just got here.
Oh, okay.
Watch your stuff.
Hello.
Good. Is that good for you? Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Fassel. So we just, we called the meeting to order and we approved last month's minutes. And we're at new business. We have Mike Matera with us. He's one of the athletic directors from Huzik. And I guess, I don't know if he has anything to offer, if he wants to just hear just an update of Russell Field and then talk about the Huzik Field, I guess.
Yeah, I'm really here just to listen, see what's going on with everything, and then any input I'll give at the end if that's okay.
Okay. So I'm not sure, Mike, if you're aware, I was hoping actually to be subbing, so I could have talked to you about this. But unfortunately, we're still remote. Russell Field, which is the home field for Huzik Valley girls softball varsity, went under reconstruction, renovations last year. It started like right before COVID hit, and the field, we were notified at last month's meeting that the field is not going to be usable for till the fall at least. They moved the field out 8 feet, and they've put some ADA compliant like fencing and walkways in and stuff, and revamped the girls benches and put some really nice new fencing in. However, with that being said, there won't be a field for the girls pending if there's a season, if there's a field for the girls varsity softball team. The JV team plays at another field, which is Reed Field, right in town here as well. And I know that last summer, Huzik had like a whole renovation, or they redid the whole softball field. Keith Legess was telling me.
And
The thought process is like what we're going to be able to use for the girls softball.
Yeah, and what's the reasoning for the field not being playable right now?
They're still in the middle of the
Still finishing? Okay. Is
Turf would not be ready to be.
space at Reed Field?
the
if you need-
JVs play at Reed Field. Reed Field's not big enough for a varsity team to go there.
Okay.
So the other people that you can see in the meeting is Mr. Tober. He's the head of the DPW, and then Steve Scrocky is actually DPW supervisor, right? Are you the supervisor, Mr. Tober?
The director, DPW.
The director, right? And then so Steve is the most senior, the most senior DPW guy he's our go-to guy whenever we talk about parks. So he was here at the last meeting and shared the information with us.
Okay. I know we usually do one night game at Renfrew. Is that still going to be an option?
What's that, baseball?
For softball as well.
We don't, Renfrew's not for
So
baseball.
the softball is only Russell Field.
Correct.
Renfrew Field is just a baseball field.
Okay, Molly. I thought Molly told me that as well. So what are the other options for varsity softball?
Huzik.
Early, no.
You know,
Well,
we were thinking that towards the end of the season, the senior league of the baseball could play one game at Russell Field.
Talking about the shop.
At Russell Field, the softball game at Russell Field, sort of to break it in, to give them at least one game within the season. We couldn't do any posts because we don't have a way of collecting money. But would be nice if the softball team could play one game at Russell Field.
It depends on the trade of use. Well, I know what you're saying.
You know, not just have that game. I mean, it'd be nice for them to play one game,
Yeah, it would be.
you know?
It's all dependent on the contractor.
Right, right. By
And the
then,
COVID, everything else.
Rob, by then, I'm pretty sure you guys have written off Russell. You'll have that done. It would be, what, in May?
It will be done well before that. Well, no, I'm sorry,
No, the grass has to grow more.
yeah, they're talking about the fall.
We're talking more like the fall.
Okay.
Yeah.
The grass needs to establish itself over in Russell Field, and the contractor advised abstain from doing any playing on that field until the fall season.
That's at Russell, you're saying?
Yeah,
Correct.
I'll withdraw mine.
Yeah.
But that's what I'd like to, I
Oh,
will,
yeah, that'd be a perfect world. I know.
you know,
I don't
in
see
one game.
But
Lou
we're,
Moser set the contract.
Could you, what is his first name?
This is Mike Matera, Mr. Fassel.
Mike, could you identify him?
Yeah,
Who
Mr.
are
Fa-
you? Background, things like
You
that.
can see it. It's in the left of this picture.
So we know who to yell at, no. So we
Yeah.
know. Who to do. Yeah, but I know you got 5 fingers, but
that's Mike.
What do you sorry, what'd you say?
what's your background?
So right now I'm the PE and health teacher at Hoosick, and the co-AD. Before that, I was coaching college soccer in Albany and also at Springfield. Then just kind of went back to school to get my master's, and now I'm here.
So you're the health teacher up at the school.
Yep,
Very good. Okay. Thank you.
of course.
And you're the junior, so you're stuck with coming up here at night to talk to us.
Yeah, Molly's at a game. He shares the AD position with Molly Meswar. So she volunteered Mike to come. So poor Mike's got a trial by fire. So the softball field at Hoosick should be pretty open and playable, correct, Mike?
Yeah, it should be ready to go. That's no problem. We were thinking about moving varsity lacrosse just to play on the football field, just to create more room. That way we wouldn't have any conflicts with the balls going everywhere. And that would open that up a little bit.
So I guess knowing that this is February, typically you guys, anybody that's going to be using any of the fields, town fields, would have sent in a field request.
Yeah, so right now we're still waiting to see what's going to happen, because we don't know if we're even going to be able to play yet. We're waiting for approval for fall 2 sports to start, which are going to be soccer, boys and girls soccer, football, golf, and cross country, all the sports that didn't get a traditional season in the fall. And then after that we'll get into spring. So there's a lot kind of happening with like the COVID task force and other MIA meetings. So we're kind of in limbo right now on what's even happening. So that's why we haven't put anything in for fields.
Okay. So that what we were working on last year, just for a bit of history before COVID hit and the seasons were about to start, and we knew that Russell Field was due for renovations, we had worked out that Hoosick was going to be allowed to use the home field of Russell Field, because otherwise it would have been a nightmare for scheduling. Like Hoosick would have had to play all of their home games at other fields.
Yeah.
But we were going to be able to use the field. Unfortunately, nobody got to do anything. So I guess for now, we're going to have to take Russell Field out of the equation for Huzik, at least for this year. But Reed Field would be the one field that you guys would put in for the field request. But I guess I know that the recommendation is coming from the construction company to not use the field for the grass seeding, but could we sort of play it by ear? Because I really like Mr. Fassel's idea of letting, at the end of the season, letting the team use it. I mean, there's not much, typically they're playing on the infield. There's only 3 players out in the outfield for the grass. So it's not like they're going to tear that up much. But could we keep that like on the back burner possibly for maybe a senior night game at Russell or something?
Sure, because another thing is you might have to, like, fall softball again, like last year. For the girls, I mean, last year,
Yeah. I mean, well, yeah, but falls into it like the Greylock Thunder and then the ACS. That's fall league. But for Huzik, I mean, they would use the field.
oh, yeah.
Tryouts are typically in right after St. Patrick's Day, and then April, and then they're done by, I think they have to have everything in, right, Mike, by Memorial Day is when the season usually ends.
Most likely it's going to be pushed back this year just because
Yeah,
the fall
right.
season I think is going to at least, I want to say March 26th. So they wouldn't get going till March 30th or April. But yeah, Memorial Day would be around the end.
I'm trying to stay hopeful. I mean, I know that basketball is doing this crunch of what, like 8 games in 4 weeks or whatever, and have a real, like tonight is already, they've only had 2 games and tonight is already senior night for the girls. So I'm pretty hopeful only because we're going to be outdoors, so that, you know, that the continued mask wearing and social distancing, and they're like, again, like I said, they played outdoors. Look, unfortunately in the summer around here, we weren't able to play softball in most part, at least in this part of the county or this part of the state. We had to go to Connecticut or even mid-state to be able to play softball.
Yeah, I mean, if we're playing basketball right now, I can't see why they wouldn't allow an outside sport, which is inherently socially distanced as it is, like softball or baseball. So,
right. And even when my daughter played in the summer, they ended up having, like, each week they changed the rules. So one week, nobody wore the mask. Then the next time it had to be the runners had to wear their masks while they were running, and nobody else could touch the bat. Only the girl could touch the bat that was using it. And I mean, so I know it's ever changing, but I guess when you're creating your schedule for softball, just, I guess, keep in mind that we may be able to put the senior, you know, something at the end, maybe senior night, because we'll have, hopefully the lights will all be done too at the field. Is that true, Mr. Tober?
Yeah,
So weather depended, there's so much snow there now, they can't even get on the field.
they were gonna try to put the lights on and wait for the ground was frozen so they could bring a lift and it wouldn't disturb.
Yeah,
the ground.
yeah.
We got all that snow, and it's,
Yeah,
what a kibosh.
too much snow right now. So.
Well, that's the story every year. There's too much snow and can't even get out on the fields, and they're practicing in the gyms for the first, you know, bit. But for purposes of Mike, the athletic director, for using a field, he wouldn't have to request Russell Field, correct? Because unless he, you know, puts in a caveat to say use it for later, you know.
I was just told today, we're not even accepting facilities use forms right now because of COVID. We're gonna see what happens with that.
We're not receiving any?
We're not accepting any right now.
Oh,
That's what I was told today. I don't know if it's true or not.
I didn't know
Till
that.
next February, so.
Yeah, I can find more about it. We'll know if it's true or not.
Mike, a little bit of advice. The practice football field will be muddier than heck up until a certain date, and then it'll be perfect. But the early part of the season, you better find a spot to play lacrosse, both girls and boys,
Yeah,
because I don't think the football field will be usable.
Yeah.
And I do not know whether you would be using the baseball field as a makeshift football field. Or I mean lacrosse field.
Yeah, that was just our initial thought right now. Obviously, I know the mud season gets pretty bad around there, but if it doesn't, we're just gonna have to do some creative scheduling around everything to make sure that nothing really intertwines with the two sports. That's all, and then that wouldn't be a problem. Just a little more organizing. So we want to try it out to kind of space them out a little bit, but if we can't, we'll just schedule around each other.
Okay, good. Well, that's great, Cindy, that we can have a thought, even if it's wishful, to have at least one game
right.
on Russell Field before the end of the varsity season. Because right now it's winter now, and then it goes to fall. They're gonna have a football season, so they say, in March and April, or in April.
That's the way it's going now. It'll start around middle of March probably.
And then May 1st is gonna be spring.
Yep. About. I mean, they're changing the dates all the time. They're doing votes. They're trying to extend the basketball season, which would push things back even further. So it changes like almost every day what they're saying about the season. So
Yeah, I'm just saying that for your sake, if you could push for a game at Russell Field through Rob, and Rob would tell you when the field would be open
yeah, of course,
for one game,
that would be good for the girls. Yeah.
be good to have that in that show, regular season. It could be a Drury game home. I'm just, if I had a wish list, any game.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll definitely push for one.
Maybe have night lights so you could have the game at night.
Yeah, if those lights get put in, I mean, definitely the atmosphere for a senior night game would be, I think, something the girls would definitely remember. So, yeah.
That's what I'm gonna vote for. Senior night, which is towards the end of the season. And it's always a highlight for the girls to be able to play under the lights for their senior year, since they didn't get it last year. They didn't even get a season last year. So at least if they can have senior night, we could bring that back on the new field. That would be really good. And knowing that senior night is usually towards the end of the season anyway, that would be even better. But I don't mind being like the liaison between the Hoosick athletics and the parks. I sort of played that role anyway, unofficially, only because I sub up there too. So I can always get in touch with Molly or Mike and find out where they're at with the Hoosick field. I didn't even know that Hoosick's field got redone. I happened to hear, I think Mr. Fassel told me a couple meetings ago, and then I talked to Keith Legess, the maintenance guy, and he told me that they have all brand new dirt. He got it over in upstate New York. So he was really happy with it. And our only concern was how would the games go with lacrosse being in the background? But that's not up to us. Our purview for the parks is Russell Field, and unfortunately doesn't look like it's going to be ready for the full season, but at least keep it in the back of your mind for having like maybe senior night down there or something.
100%. Yeah.
But yeah, once you find out, Mike, what MIAA and everybody votes on, you can let me know. I can certainly send you my phone number. You can text me, or if I see you up at the school, if they ever reopen, and just let me know. And then I can let you know about the field request forms and stuff. And Steve or Robert can keep me abreast about when they're going to start accepting field request usage forms.
Okay. Sounds like a
Uh,
plan.
But keep in mind though, you will have to put one in for Reed for the JV girls, because that's where they practice and play.
So we gotta wait till start accepting again though, whenever that is.
Well, you could probably still get a form, right? He can put the form in, right, Steve? And then it's
Yeah,
already
it's
on.
not- it's not, yeah. In fact, I have one here for
Yeah, you can put them in this, they can-
Redford, they're just not looking at it until we find out what's going on with COVID. And
Yeah. Well, I don't want them to miss. I mean, we all know it's a small town. We all know that Huzik uses Reed and Russell, whatever, for their games. So it's not like they're going to miss out on anything. But if he has it on file, once they get their schedule, then, you know, he can just submit it.
Correct. Right.
And Lou is just saying on the chat, the form's available on the town website.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I'll fill that out and just leave it for you all just to have on file when we're ready to go. That'd be it, right?
I think so. Is there any issue with that? If he fills it out and has it ready to go, he just won't have dates.
We'll just have it in 5 and we're ready to accept them. You'll already be ready to go.
Yeah. Okay.
Just when you're making an application, put in that one use of Russell Field at the end. And then we'll pencil it in, and if it works, we got it. If we don't, we made an attempt.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for coming, Mike.
Yeah, of course. No, thanks for having me. I know it's my first year as AD with Molly here, so I'm still kind of learning the ropes a little bit. So, no, just thanks for kind of talking this out with me and everything. I'll take this information to Molly and we'll see what we're going to end up doing. But I definitely like the idea of, you know, giving the girls that special kind of senior night. So we'll definitely push for that. And then we'll be in touch with the dates and everything and whatever's going to happen with, you know, all sports at this point. So we'll see.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
All right. Yep. See you, everyone.
Thank you.
So the next part of the new business was continuation of last meeting's topics regarding the scoreboards, field usage at Russell Field, Reed Field, others, upcoming scheduling plans and needs, and other relevant topics to help us prepare for the upcoming parks recreation season. I was speaking with Lou Mosier earlier. We were talking about the scoreboards. And he was in contact with, I believe, an engineering company, and they gave him some quotes on installing the scoreboards into. There were 2 scoreboards that were donated by MCLA, and he spoke with this company, and they are willing to install both scoreboards at the different parks, one at Russell and one at Reed. And he said that they
Cindy, if I could just interject,
sure.
So MCLA had donated 2 Fair Play scoreboards. They replaced theirs at their fields, their baseball and softball fields respectively. We got a quote on doing a wiring LED Bluetooth upgrade to one of the boards. Both are obviously they're older. They were replaced for a reason. But there are 2 shells that we can work with. The company is based out of East Longmeadow. That is the dealer representative here in Western Mass. The company's name is Hamden Engineering. They're willing to do the replacement of the wiring setup, et cetera. As far as installation, actually putting them on the posts, the onus of that would be on us as a community.
Steve, do you know anything about this, or
Oh,
the
sure.
scoreboards and?
Well, I know where they are, but I didn't know about this. I know he's looking for somebody to move over. But
Cindy,
what's the quote on the rewiring?
So to do the wiring harness and is $1,835. To do like the setup, demonstration, test, et cetera, would be an additional 300. If we go ahead and do the two boards, it'll still be the wiring, et cetera, will be $1,835 per, but they're willing to waive the $300 demo install. So it would be for the two, you're looking at $2,670. I'm sorry, $3,670.
Bob, do we have any movement within our budget?
I'm not sure the exact number, but the last I heard, and I need to verify it, was about 3,000 is what Carolyn had stated, I believe, from our previous meetings.
Yeah, that's what I have written in the minutes.
Yeah, I don't know the exact.
Previous meeting.
So you're talking about putting up one of these boards at Russell Field or just one at Reed?
My thought, based on the meeting from last month, I thought that this could remedy the problem with the shortfall in not having the board. Rehabbing both of those boards, rewiring both of them. You have one at Reed Field, one at Russell Field. They're both from the same manufacturer. They'll both be with the same wiring harnesses at the same time. So if you need parts, if you need service, we have a source, within an hour and a half of us that can help us.
Right. Fairplay, they're still in business anyway.
That's correct. Hamden Engineering, they're a distributor for Fairplay.
My opinion would be, and it just becomes my opinion, we ought to do one at a time. And that would be Reed,
Right.
do Reed, get it in, and then if it's worked out, do the other to improve the budgetary process of both of them. We'll shoot our budget for doing anything else this year. So I just recommend to do one at Reed and then that next year take care of itself.
Well, then we're gonna have a brand new field with no scoreboard for the Who's It girls or for the rest of the. I mean, I'm thinking that if they do all of the install at Reed or at Russell while they're doing the construction now, because right now we have a board that's used that could be used, but there's no box at Russell. So now we're gonna have this brand new field with still no scoreboard. And if, originally when ACS came to us, they said that they were getting a donation of a scoreboard for Reed. And then lo and behold, they ended up getting 2 scoreboards. And if both of them are workable scoreboards and we have a company that's willing to do the demo install of them and waive fees, I don't know if they'll do that if we put it off, kind of a thing.
Yeah, Cindy,
just thinking that while
Cindy, you're spot on that, because they were, for our original quote to do the one at Reed is the wiring harness and install is $1,835, and then the setup and demonstration, et cetera, is an additional $300. So for Reed, it would be $2,135. If we do the 2, they waive that $300 per, which is collectively $600. So it would be $1,835 for each of the boards. So you would save $600 on the project.
So, so if it's gonna be like, we'll say 3670 is what you said, but it could be 4. So if there's the 3,000 in the parks monies, then the groups would be held responsible maybe for somehow coming up with some kind of monies to fund the rest of that money. Plus, you said something about painting it and lettering.
That's correct. I mean, they're dated. Obviously, the paint is faded. The lettering's chipped. They they need the cosmetic element of it taken care of. You also need Reed Field to run wiring there. I don't know the condition of the wiring at Russell with the construction where that's at. To physically set them on the posts, you're going to need people to do that, whether it be volunteers or a company to be contracted to do it. So the groups, the youth sports, maybe the booster clubs for the high school will need to have some outlay, certainly.
I mean, to me, it sounds, like a good deal, because if we were going to be looking at a new, A, they couldn't find a box for Russell. B, these are scoreboards that are donated from the local college, so you know that they're usable. And if we can get a deal, I think that's I think that would be a good use. We talked about having that money and donating it back into the fields. Reed hasn't had a scoreboard forever. I'm sure these groups, all these youth groups always seem to have volunteers, ready and willing to do whatever it takes to get things going. I'm sure that they could find it in there to make sure that it works and stuff. And I'm thinking that if you're already doing the work over at Russell, why not keep going? Otherwise, you're going to have this really nice field ready to use with no scoreboard.
That was kind of my thought in that, if you're going to have this company come up from East Longmeadow, albeit not an arduous trek, but if they're here in town, if they could rehab 2 of the boards, get them ready to go, and then we would just be responsible for the painting, wiring, getting them installed. I'd already done research for getting the one on Reed. We have enough, whether it's through sponsors or community members that are willing to help out and lend a hand, that can do some of that wiring, painting, et cetera. I think we think we have people that can certainly help out on that element of it too. So.
And just say, what if we did it? And I would accept whatever decision you made. I'm not gonna lose any sleep over. How would you fertilize Renfrew? How would you apply infield where you have the turf now for the field? How would you do that with the existing budget?
We have an in-house pesticide staff member, and we're proposing to do that internally. I think in the past they've used a contractor, but it's something that one of our staff is licensed to do that. So.
Now, what about, you were going to put an infield in last year in Renfrew with different soil, different. So how would you put that in the budget? Would you be able to put in that in the budget and put into
The fertilizer part too? Yeah.
the fertilizer and the infield?
Are you talking about the fertilizer machine or
No,
just the fall?
We also have a stockpile. We have some infield clay already.
I know that.
So-
Gee, now who's gonna put it in?
No, that's for,
Renfrew.
Valley.
That's,
Renfrew's gonna need a lot more than that.
okay.
That's down the road.
Well, what's the extent of that at Russell Field? Are you talking the whole infield or was it just?
No, he's talking about, right?
We're not even talking Russell Field. You have to deal with Russell Field.
Renfro Field.
Renfro
Are we
Field.
doing the infield with Renfro?
That's another subject.
Yeah.
Okay, that was
That's
a
another-
proposal last year. It never came to fruition.
Right.
But I'm saying, I mean, we put a lot of money into everything, into Russell. And nowhere else is anything going to be done. Now you're gonna leave these other fields
We just did that, Valley's good to go. We did that last year.
good.
Yeah, Valley's good.
That was in good shape, but you're talking about Renfro now, that's not in too bad shape from what I've seen.
No, I
It's
just,
in the middle of the span.
Hi, can I just interject?
Sure.
Nothing has been done at Russell Field in over 15, almost 20 years. So my whole, I'm sorry, but I have to advocate for girls sports as well as youth sports, but Russell Field has had absolutely nothing done
right, this is long overdue.
in 15 or 20 years. My daughter was a senior and they were going to try to shut her down at Hoosick from having a night game. And the previous director was Mr. New Valley. And I had to plead with him because the lights were not right. And Steve Scrocky and his crew went down and filled in up by the little, we call it the concession stand, and filled that in where it was dangerous. They filled in where the bleacher or the bench seats for the visiting team was kind of dangerous. They filled in next to the steps that had been washed out by rain and stuff. Nothing has ever been touched at Russell Field, and we've been told for years and years and years that it was going to get touched. We finally have monies now, and we got the grant, and it's finally being worked on. So I would like to continue seeing it till the end of getting fixed up and not having, going to the end and having everything done right. If we can get a deal on something, I'd like to get a deal on something if it's worth it. But I'm sorry, but every year Renfrew Field gets something new done to it and gets the refertilizing, reseeding and all of that. And it always comes out of our budget, but Russell Field never gets anything. Reed Field doesn't get anything. So, and we have more teams using those two fields. We have 8 house league teams. We have travel teams. We have the high school teams all using those two fields, and nothing has ever been done to them. But Renfrew Field, is used sparingly by the baseball group and maybe high school when they want a night game. So I'm sorry, but I have to respectfully say that I'm going to really fight for Russell Field at this point.
Yeah, Hey, Cindy, I would also have to agree with that. I know in the past, it's always with Renfrew, it's always been, it is our premier field. We want to keep that up. And then Russell Field's always been in the works. And then we've been planning this for 6-7 years. Now that we're going to have 2 pristine fields, I would think in the future that any budgetary or soil or maintenance would be split evenly between the 2 fields. That way we keep the upkeep on both of them. So we do have 2 pristine fields, and it wouldn't just all go to Renfrew.
That's my reasoning behind not having football practice at Russell. If we're gonna do all this work, let's keep it there. Because football just kills field practice. Hello?
Hi, no, I'm listening. I don't know where we're at this point. If it's a matter of, do we make a motion at this point to, earmark that money for the scoreboards for the 2 fields? I don't know what we should be doing at this point.
I think we ought to give it one, that's why it's good to meet as early as we've met. I think we can give it one more month and in between ask the girls softball leagues respectfully how, if they can help us out with some sort of contribution. And then so that we can do both and still have at least a little bit of money left over for fertilizing and for, something's gonna come up at the last minute. I would say, wait a month and see if the leagues can help us out financially or getting things. Sometimes they know the right people, they might get a cheaper price. And then at the end of next month's meeting, I'll vote for both fields being given a scoreboard, if that's what we want to spend most of our money doing. But I would like to see if the private leagues, see, the Little League takes care of Valley Street itself. And I would hope, and quite frankly, Cindy, I think that there's going to be no more football there in the fall. You know, I know it's a bitter pill for me to take, but at the same time, there's going to be no football in the fall. So more and more, Russell Field is going to be a field that is primarily for softball in the future, in the close future. So I agree with nothing being happening, but I would like to see if the town leagues can help us out along with it. And then at the end of the next meeting, let's vote on it. And you have one vote for the 2 scoreboards for next term.
So if we do these scoreboards, between the two of them, we're looking at close to $4,000, but that's not even including some of the peripherals we just talked about. Are we gonna have the funds to be able to install and do all that work? We don't wanna go buying scoreboards and be left with, some outstanding work that'll prevent us from using them.
Go ahead, Lou.
Rob, I can speak to that. Certainly, with the help from the budget, I think that would offset the cost of the install of the wiring. A lot of that additional responsibility in terms of cosmetics, wiring, and installation will be the responsibility of whether it be the youth house league, travel leagues, high school booster, et cetera, a collective, if you will, to do those things, whether it be an outlay. Hopefully, I think we have enough in ACS. We have enough partner sponsors that are electrical contractors, landscaping contractors, riggers, et cetera, that can help us with some of those things, and we're hoping for that. But the other challenge that we didn't really discuss here is that you're looking at one softball field in the town of Adams for these kids to play on. Is it even, given the fact that Russell's not available, doesn't even, I hope the high school field is available for the girls to play. But can we really tear up a field with the volume of kids that we put across those fields collectively with high school, house, travel? Can we run a new line of conduit out there, put a machine? I mean, is that going to even make sense? It's another question to put on the table.
So with that in mind, I'd like to continue this discussion till next month's meeting. And at that time, we can see what the different leagues will help us out with, and then make make it a vote.
Oh, okay. Okay. So what are we, we're just gonna table it and discuss all of this again next meeting? Or are we doing some research somewhere else? Or, I mean, Are
We should invite the members from the different leagues to come to the next meeting. And maybe the collective knowledge might come up with an answer where you can do both without breaking the bank.
okay. Okay. I can certainly send out, an email. Obviously Louis here, so he'll know. I'll send out an email to Corey Bishop for the Adams Lassie League. I certainly can, I guess the other thing would be, do you want me to go as far as inviting like somebody like the coach from the Hoosick softball to talk about it, or maybe somebody from the booster club for Hoosick? I mean, certainly I'm a member of it, but then I would have to, I guess, I don't know, would I have to abstain from the vote because I'm a member of the booster club? So I don't know. I don't mind sending out an invitation to have them, come discuss it and then we vote on it. But obviously I just stated how I felt about, Russell Field getting the monies. I mean, we don't ask for any monies to be donated to Renfrew when anything is going to be, redone there from any of the leagues that use it. But I guess if that's how the route we want to go by inviting the other leagues, I'm sure they wouldn't have an issue. At least coming to the meeting and hearing that if potentially they could, put in the rest of the money or whatever, then it would be, might be worth it for them to be there. But I certainly can put that, Robert, if you want to put that on the agenda, I'll send an invite out to the different league heads.
I think it's important that we get some kind of a commitment, so that we're not left in a position where if we do buy the scoreboards that, like I said before, that's my concern. Otherwise, I'm good. And of course, the other consideration is the pandemic. We don't know where that's going to go. Things could uptick and we're going to lose the season, or they could get better and have a good season. We just don't know yet. So
that I agree, but you're always going to have sports there, and that's where they play. We only have the 2 softball fields, so they're gonna play there, and you always have parents that are willing to do whatever to have their kids, get what they need on the field. And just knowing that I've been watching this field in disarray for so long that I'd be willing to do whatever it takes, to make sure that all of this stuff gets done too. So even if there wasn't a season, even if the pandemic takes over again, I would think that you would want the machinery to not dig up the field again when you're putting the conduits and stuff while the field is, while it's still in being redone and stuff. But again, I personally don't see any problem. I mean, I think that there's enough volunteers that would be willing to step up and help make sure that their kids have, the good stuff. And, like Lou said, if, not sure what's going to happen if Reed Field is being used by all of these groups, how that's even going to get done over there. But again, that can be a discussion for next month. I'm fine with that.
The scoreboard over at Russell, the conduit is already installed for that. That was already put in, so. There's no digging necessary if a new scoreboard is put over. The conduit is already under the ground.
Okay. Okay, all right.
Is that Reed?
Russell, is that a read too?
I think there's conduit above, yeah.
Okay, that it's just a matter of, pulling it through the wire, or, there's a way to do that without digging the field up, but Russell was good.
Okay,
I think we should continue this discussion and invite the members to the next meeting, our next meeting. I think we beat it to death.
yeah, yeah, this meeting, it's definitely been beaten to death. We'll table it for next meeting, that's fine. Let's get to the next thing on the agenda was application from Jeff Boyd for the Adult Baseball League and use of Renfrew Field, but as Steve Scrocky has shared with us, we're not accepting field request use forms.
Accepting them, but we're not really looking at them.
Yeah, we'll take them, but there's not gonna be any processing at this point.
We have to be aware that the charter school may be asking to use Russell Field. So we must tell them no. Or tell them until now they can't.
Yeah, we'll get a hold of some.
Okay, but you gotta communicate that to
Yeah,
them.
I already thought of that.
So Steve, you're gonna take care of that? Okay. So then Jeff isn't even here on the Zoom meeting, so we can't tell him, but I guess he'll find out when we don't. I don't know who usually gets back to him just to let him know that, yes, we've got your form, but we're not addressing it yet.
Right, yeah, we'll take care of it.
Okay.
I think we should bridge the idea of football practice at Russell Field and make a decision of that tonight so that we can go further forward with finding an alternative.
That is a definite.
Yeah, so Steve, you have something to say
No, that's a definite.
about football practice?
Well, we just start the dialogue, to try to find another alternative place to practice
Right.
before it's too late.
So the motion is, I don't know if it's a motion, but there's a recommendation that the youth football not practice at Reed Field, at Russell Field.
Has anybody spoken to the youth football at all? And are they advised that this is being discussed and that they might not be able to play there this fall? So they even have an idea that they might have to look for a different place, or we can start looking for a different option for them?
Not at this point. Go up and get a hold of them.
I think Coach Harrington should be invited to the meeting so that he can, we can be very open with him.
Right.
And now I think this year they practiced up at the high school.
They did last year.
That's
Yeah.
right. I meant this past season.
Oh. That's tough.
There was no football this past season.
What was it? It wasn't.
Well, there was
They
no-
They didn't do any football. They only did
There was
That was
flag football, but it was almost like pickup.
Oh. I did not know, I guess being new to the duties of chairperson, I don't know, I volunteer to invite the softball people for the scoreboard. I didn't know that whose job it is to invite. I know that Steve talked about having a discussion with the football people, but
Yeah, that was brought up at the last
I'm
meeting.
sorry if I dropped the ball, but I did not invite anybody. So I don't know if is that something that the chairperson of the parks does, or is that something that DPW, or, I don't know.
Typically, anybody would just take the reins and just let someone volunteer to contact. But I do think it would be advantageous to reach out to them and not make a decision this evening. That way they can come, we can talk to them in person, hear what they have to say, their options, and then we can make a formative decision with them present.
Correct. Yeah,
I agree, Scott. So who is in charge of the football? Is it still Mark
I
Harrington?
don't even, is it still work? I don't even know.
Mark Harrington is the coach.
I think actually it was Pete Tatro. He took over, but then he just moved to Tennessee or Kentucky. So I don't know who's in charge now.
Mark's the head coach at Wilson.
Right.
Can we pull the field application for last year? And
I'm
then
talking about the youth football.
Oh, I don't know that.
Yeah, I don't know who, that's what I thought of. The youth.
So Scott just said, can we pull the application from last year's field request? And see who was on it?
Yeah,
There was that fellow from RPI that played at RPI, and then he was involved with the youth.
because I don't know, because he didn't play this year.
We'll pull that
I
and,
don't know who it is.
we can get in touch with them. We'll find out who it is. We'll try to set that up.
Okay, thank you, Robert.
See, Cindy, that's why it's good to have a meeting every month, because there's a lot that can be done in communication.
Oh, I absolutely agree. I am 100% on board for having monthly meetings.
You just have to tell my wife to remind me at 5 or 6 that I got a meeting.
Right. Okay, so old business. We talked about the field usage at Russell, follow-up date, the quote from the engineering, follow up the possible donation from the Stansfields. Did Corey was gonna look at Stansfield. I don't know if he knew about,
Lights.
yeah, for the lights. I'll reach out to Corey and see what he heard from Stansfield, and then perhaps he can talk about it at next month's meeting. I didn't send him a formal invitation tonight because he was on the meeting last month. So that's all that's on the agenda.
Point of order, I'd like to make sure that we ask Coach Harrington to come too, because I think he's gonna help decide where the junior football will be playing in the fall, where they'll be practicing. So we make sure we invite him.
Well, it's either gonna be, if he's the head coach of Huzik, then he's not gonna have anything to do with the youth. So at least if we reach out to him, he can let us know who's in charge of the youth. I again think it was Pete Tatro, but he has moved. So I'm not sure who it is.
See, I feel that he's gonna host the boys' football practice at Huzik. And I think it'd be good to get him on board, to have him say he will help us.
Yeah, that's fine. Mr. Tober said you were gonna get in touch with him.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
One quick thing, didn't the youth football towards the fall, when the lights turned back, and weren't they using the lights down there in the fall? And that was one of the main reasons why they had to play at Russell. I'm just thinking, if we take them off of Russell and they need lights, I think a request would probably come in for Renfrew. But just food for thought.
I don't know if they need lights all the time.
I think they need lights because they were running into darkness early.
They like to play with the lights. I don't think they need guys. That's my opinion.
My problem is that they're gonna say, well, let us practice at Renfrew. Try that one. And then they inch on that field,
Russell,
and that field will go downhill quickly.
Renfro was a game field only, no practice.
But we gotta be aware of that.
Renfrew, yeah, baseball and softball and football are three different kinds of sports, yeah. That's why football always has a practice field, but we don't have enough for operators.
Yeah.
I mean, it's too bad, we got Mill Street, but it's not. We got Bolt Field, we can look at that.
So I guess if we're gonna have this discussion again about fields, it would behoove us to have the expertise of Mr. Scrocky attend yet another Monday meeting.
Yeah.
We're gonna keep talking about this, and maybe put our heads together and figure it out. If you wanna keep Russell Field nice, that's the only way it's gonna work. You're waiting all this time to have a nice softball field. I think if you let football practice there, it's not gonna.
Well, we're gonna decide that's not gonna happen. And then we gotta,
We gotta invite the football league.
yeah, we
That's
gotta make,
important.
total them on board, so they have an alternative.
Right.
With that, Cindy, I think we're done.
All right, so we have good to the order. Mr. Fassel, do you have anything?
Just to reiterate that communication is very important. And I think there's one other thing we have to say is very important, is Steve showing up. You know, without his expertise, we'd be shooting in the dark. Thank you, Steve, for showing up.
Thank you, Steve. Plus, Steve has history with all these fields, so, you know,
I've
he's,
never seen a lot of things happen.
Scott, do you have anything good for the order?
I am all set.
Jake, anything from you?
Nothing for me, thank you.
And Paul?
I'm still learning and I'm learning something new every meeting, so I'll continue on.
I agree. So with all that being said, our next meeting is going to be the second Monday of March. That would be March 8th. At least we get a little bit more of a break than we did from this one.
At least I'm in a snow.
Yeah, hopefully we don't get that another storm, you know, the last spring storm because of the groundhog. But so March 8th, I assume will still be Zoom, 6 o'clock. Motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll motion to adjourn.
Second,
Motion, Scott, Jake second. All in favor, Paul,
Yeah.
Mr. Fassel,
Yes,
Jake,
yeah.
Scott,
Yes.
and I also. The meeting is now adjourned at 7:10 PM.
big show,
Thank you, everyone.
Adjourned.
adjourn. Jake Schutz is down at DC, guys.
No, Jake's back home.
I just got back, coach.
Go!